Malolele, and welcome everyone to another live digital kava session here on the Polynesianized podcast. Mr. Atearoa is still here in the United States of America, working on his final plans to return to the land of the long white cloud. Mr. Atearoa, how are you doing today?
No, doing good, Toa. It's good to do another live digital kava session in the USA. It's good, still here in Utah, and enjoying every time and moment here. Spend time with the family and catch up with everyone. So it's going well, Toa.
Awesome. Really excited to do another session here. We got some plans over the weekend. Mr. Atearoa will be traveling, and so I will also have some family visiting here in Las Vegas. So we're going to get through the live digital kava session a little earlier in the week than typical. Mr. Atearoa has been working on some new guests. We're pretty excited to join us here in the next few weeks. We'll be, I think, coming up in about a week or two. I think Rockstone is going to join us. We're going to talk about the Fiji events that's been going on with the new Tuilau that's been in the news quite a bit. So we're gonna have Maka join us. We'll review some of the videos, some of the interesting reactions online. But that's a big event for our brothers and sisters in Fiji. And then Mr. Sunny Natanielo, Masi, what's his name? Will be joining us. Sunny, right?
Sunny, yes. First name Sunny, and still trying to work his Natanielo, I believe, is the name.
Yeah. So we're working. I think the first week of August, he'll be joining us.
Yeah,
and so we're excited for that.
Very excited.
If anybody here would remember, on one of our episodes, he was being interviewed on another podcast, and we did a reaction. Pretty insightful guy. He seems to be interested in just learning and growing. He does have some exposure to a lot of different oral history and also perspective from our brothers and sisters in Ha'amoa on just kind of history and overall cultural items. So we're excited to have that coming up here in the near future. Anything else I may be missing, Mr. Atearoa, as in housekeeping work before we get into the show today?
No, just to add on, Tua, we're very excited to have Maka again. We'll be kind of, I guess, mainly focused on the ceremonial customs and protocols that took place during the title, giving the title to the Tuilau. There were interesting cultural performances and cultural protocols that was observed that we'll kind of go through. Excited with that, and we'll go along with Maka, Tuihala Maka, with him on that, and then also with Sunny Natanielu, like you mentioned, Tua. Very excited. He did an interview on one of the popular kind of Polynesian radio station, PMN, Pacific Media Network, in New Zealand, and we reacted to his videos, and we are very appreciative of him giving his time to join us on an episode, and hopefully the viewers will enjoy having him on and just having a talanoa and talk story, like they say in Hawaii. So looking forward to it.
Yes, 100%. Yes, the other one that I forgot to mention, we do have a recorded episode with the founder of the Polynesianized podcast, Tevita Fale. I'm hoping to get through some of the editing and have that released on our official podcast as an episode. And so that's up and coming. And really just want to, before we get into another thing, it's been a really fun and exciting last few weeks, reaching over 1,000 subscriptions on YouTube, getting hundreds of subscriptions also on the audio podcast platforms. We've been at peaks. We got really excited about that. And some interesting news. We are in discussions, believe it or not, to all of our loyal Kava session team, we're having some discussions on getting syndicated. That's just kind of
yes, sir.
exciting news. We're going to work through that, but hopefully we can get that squared away and be able to officially share those details. But that's a big step for us, and we're excited for that. Moving on to the show, pretty excited for the show today, as we just had a quick conversation earlier today with Mr. Atearoa on some options for the show, and we settled on an event called To'ai'ofa. Mr. Atearoa, what are you familiar with this event that happened in Tonga in the 1830s, early 1830s, 1834, I think, to be exact? What's kind of your familiarity with that story, Masi?
To my understanding, Tua, this is about, I guess, like the spiritual awakening that kind of happened, or event that happened in Tonga. I don't know the details too much. If it was in Tonga Tapu or Vava'u, I'm not too sure.
It's in Ha'apai. I think it started in Ha'apai.
Ha'apai. Okay, I just know it was a real spiritual awakening that really influenced on Tonga's, let's just say, on Tonga's history, about the religion and their spiritual let's just say journey of really like taking notice and going further with their relationship with God and giving their time, and let's say their time, energy to God, kind of thing, because of this experience that's been passed down since when did this happen? 1834 till now. So that's just kind of my understanding of it, Dua.
Yes, absolutely. And it's one of the reasons why I think this is really important is a couple of reasons. It gives a good context to understanding Tupou the first journey into his conversion, and also kind of talking about something, Masi, that we've identified as we look at the various nations throughout Polynesia and the Pacific in general. One of the challenges that really was probably the biggest hurdle, the more we talk about it, colonization comes about because there's a lack of unity, right? There's a lack of unity to bring the people together and the leadership together to say, hey, we have to organize ourselves. We have to form a formal government. We have to have a structured government so that we can engage in diplomacy with the Westerners. And if you didn't have that unification, and if you didn't have that ability to move together as a people, and having that division actually just leads to colonization, as we see almost every example. I think you shared, Masi, every example you've looked at, the infighting was one of the main reasons why independence was lost and colonization became the reality.
Yeah, I mean, especially with indigenous people, native people. And like I said, I don't know any indigenous people that still maintain their sovereignty up to today and has withstood the test of time. So it's pretty remarkable, if you think about it.
Yes, 100%. So to start off, I want to kind of maybe it'd be good to kind of run through some of the scenarios of Tupou the first. So I just had Grok, our trusty Grok, do some I guess we'll call Grok, Masi, our research assistant, our our assistant there. So it looks like we have someone just stopping by to say hi. Charlie Fly says, Malo e tau mau whangatakoua. Malo, Charlie. Welcome.
Malo, shikau mai, Charlie.
Let me see here. So what I asked, and just so everyone knows, this is Grok 4. And our cousin Elon announced that Grok 4 is smarter than every PhD expert in their specified areas combined.
So no need go to school anymore.
No. I think it's still go to school, but no need to hire a quote unquote expert. Yeah,
Okay.
the Polynesianized podcast doesn't need to hire a research assistant or anything. We're just gonna go to Grok.
My idea, Grok.
So
Grok. How much does Grok get?
go Grok ya kai uhila ata. He doesn't Grok, yeah. So Water Bear says, "What's up, Pocos?"
Water Bears. Welcome, Water Bears.
Love the updated profile picture there. Water Bears, Malo. So the first thing I wanted to start with was just some of the stories around Taufa'ahau and his ideas and kind of his experiences with the supernatural being that he was exploring. Because a lot of people accuse, this is some of the accusations, right? When you know you can't argue about colonization versus non-colonized, so what do? You say, well, Tonga really was colonized religiously, right?
Yeah,
and
that's
so
the argument out there. Yeah.
yes, I guess when you're reaching out for straws to hold on to, you'll grab onto anything. So I wanted to kind of talk through some of the stories around Tupou the first, and then the timing, and kind of put it in the timing of 1834. So 1834 is the anchor year.
Okay.
Because that's when the Toa Ofa happens, right? This religious, this spiritual revival and incident that doesn't just happen in one area. I mean, it started in one area, but it doesn't stay there. It spreads. It spreads not only throughout the existing kingdom of Tonga today, but it spreads throughout the Polynesian nation and even reaches to areas like Papua New Guinea. And so this is a pretty powerful event, but it's very much unheard of. It was very difficult. I won't say very difficult. I was surprised how very few areas online document this event. But oral history in Tonga, it's well recognized as an event that happened. But outside of Tonga and online, it's not a well documented event. Any thoughts before we get into some of the stories here?
Yes. And you can say if this is a correct correlation to this tour. Is this kind of like a people being evangelical, or is it evangelized or something? What do you call
evangelizing?
Evangelizing. Is it kind of something like that? That period?
Yes,
it's like it was like a spiritual takeover, and it's like you're kind of outside of your mortal body kind of thing, and you're like that's kind of the event how I kind of think of it when I was thinking of it deeply.
I mean, when you think about Billy Graham, right?
Yeah.
When Billy Graham had like his evangelism that just
that's
caught
the word.
on fire, filling up stadiums everywhere he went. This is, I guess, something very much similar to that. And we're going to look at a thesis paper written by looks like a Tongan theology student for his PhD. We're going to walk through that. But Noah, welcome to the program. Say, I got a question I want to ask in ages. Feel free to shoot it over, Noah. Malo Abito. Welcome to the show, Uso. Let's start with the first story if you want to read it out loud for us. Some of these I've never heard of before, by the way.
The storm incident in 1829. Taufa'ahau, ruler of the Ha'apai Islands, visited Tonga Tapu in 1828 to learn about Christianity from Wesleyan Methodist missionaries. In October 1829, he requested a missionary for Ha'apai, but was disappointed when offered Pita V, a recently baptized Tongan convert and fisherman, rather than a European preacher. He initially refused V and sailed back to Ha'apai, but encountered a severe storm that nearly sunk his canoe. Interpreting this as divine judgment from the Christian God for rejecting the missionary, he returned to fetch V. This event marked an early test of the new faith's power, prompting Taufa'ahau to allow V to teach reading, writing, and Christian doctrine in Ha'apai.
Yeah, this is kind of interesting. I never heard this story, but it kind of makes sense logically, right? You have a young, powerful chief. He's interested in learning more about this
Mm,
Christian religion. There, he understands from, talking to some of his uncles and other, lieutenants of his grandfather and father. The Europeans do come with resources and opportunity. Maybe he has some interest in the religion itself, but also being of nobility, to be offered a fisherman, just kind of simple
mm,
man within his own kingdom. He was a little disappointed. But I have a quick question, Mussy. What are your thoughts on why he made the connection of it's a storm? It could have been a storm anytime, but why all of a sudden he kind of thinks here, according to this
mm.
resource, that he sees the storm as a sign that he should go back and get Pita V?
Well, isn't it? I think we kind of discussed it a bit earlier in the episode, Stuart, with his name, a little storm. I don't know. I'm just thinking maybe with the little storm, Taufa'ahau, his meaning, and maybe it was like an omen thing that he needs to go back. This is kind of new because I never I've never heard of this part of the story that he was
Mhm.
V was rejected. He sails off, he sails off, and then he encounters the storm. And I think when Maui Tekelangi was on the episode Tua Taufa'ahau, meaning a little storm, from my understanding. So
Yeah, the
you
little
know
storm from Ahau.
the little storm from Ahau. So he comes across, encountered a storm on his way back to Hapai, knowing that he rejected the new religion missionary that was, um, let's just say, tasked to go with him or preach to the Hapai islands. So then he quickly recognizes maybe a bad this is a bad sign, and then goes back. But yeah, to me, I don't know. That's what I'm just kind of thinking too. I don't know if
Hmm.
you had any thoughts, but I just know this is a kind of new oral history, and it's good to listen before the whole, I think, event of Pita V and Taufa'ahau testing the new religion. What happens before that? Because I don't really know that part of the story until I read
Yeah.
this. So
Yeah. The things that, to me, when you understand that Taufa'ahau and a lot of the, this knowledge of navigation is still somewhat around, obviously in a declined state, but it must have happened pretty suddenly and unexpectedly, I'm assuming, right? Like
mm,
if you just go from really good weather to all of a sudden bad weather out of nowhere.
eh,
And as people who are used to navigating the ocean, a storm doesn't just magically appear usually. You usually see the signs, the winds change,
mm.
you see the clouds off in the distance. So to me,
Gradually developing to a storm. Huh?
yes. So I'm wondering if something like that happened, or if the storm happened and he just got a gut feeling, right? Where he's like, something here doesn't make sense, right? Kind of like
Mm.
Jonah, right? When they go to like Jonah in the Bible, where they're like, dude, this storm is weird. Someone here must have done something. And then that's when Jonah says, oh, yeah, guys, it's me.
Throw me off.
Throw me over, and then everything will be fixed. So
Mm.
yeah, so that's interesting. Never heard this story before, and
Uh,
we got a couple of them. We'll have a couple more comments here. Noah says, I've always had a thought if Tonga used to be a continent. I've never heard that before, Noah. And since it's a coral reef, um, that's a little bit more challenging. New Zealand makes a lot more sense as potentially a part of a continent, maybe, and it being mountaintops because it's a lot of volcanic, right? A lot of
mm.
volcanic material there. But have you ever heard anything of Tonga ever being?
Nope, no. I think this is brand new information, Noah. It's funny. This question, I don't think it's almost like a storm like that came out of nowhere. This is a new question, Noah. I don't think I don't hear. I've never heard anything close to that. So I'll just revert back to Tua's answer on that. But
Yeah.
No.
Maybe share some links or any areas where you've kind of come across that, Noah,
Yeah.
or oral histories that you kind of heard of, but we're not familiar with that concept there. Noah's comment in response was, because it doesn't make sense to me if Tonga Tapu was the same island from now to about the area of the era of the Tu'i Tonga, because honestly, if that's true, it would have been sunken by now. Well, I'm assuming if you're saying through climate change, maybe. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that, Noah, but
I have heard stories of, with the whole climate change, that a lot of parts of Nuku'alofa were underwater even back in the days, and has come up, and then now it's gone back to kind of the ocean rising. So, the weather patterns are always changing, even from the time of the Tu'i Tonga era. Some of the stories of Nuku'alofa were really underwater in those days, and then some of the islands were underwater and has come up, and then now they've kind of, the water is rising again. So I don't know. I'm just sharing what I've heard, Noah, regarding that changing landscape.
Malo Masi. Hey, Polly Prince, welcome to the show. He says the experience is a different feeling. Oh, he's talking about To'ai or a spiritual experience, right? So Polly Prince says that experience is a different feeling, speaking from a personal experience. I've witnessed God in a way I never seen him before. It's about the submitting and allowing the spirit to dwell in you. Very interesting, Polly Prince, because we're going to go through some of the personal experience of foreign missionaries in Tonga in the 1800s. And then also what Tongans observed during the To'ai Ofa time. So that's very interesting. Last comment here. Masi is from your buddy Water Bears. You want to read that out, Masi?
Yes, sir. Water Bears. Masi, you weren't here the last time I was here, but congrats to you guys for 1K subscribers. I want to join you guys one day, but I'm hiding from Trump administration. Oh, wow. Water Bears. Hey, Water Bears, if you need a sponsor, Tua in Las Vegas, sponsor, go ahead.
Yeah.
and because I'm gonna be heading back to Atearoa, so I won't be able to sponsor you from Atearoa, Water Bears, but hopefully California and Nevada, right next to each other. Hey,
Uncle Donald said he's looking to make an exemption for like hotel and farmers. So maybe the Polynesian Eyes podcast is gonna buy some land in the desert and we'll go plant some cactus. We'll have a cactus farm in the middle of the desert, and we're gonna sponsor Water Bears.
Water Bears, what I can do is, if you do get caught, I can write a reference how you have a good here. Okay.
Yes.
Water Bears. I'm going to say you're our head PR person at the Polynesian Eyes podcast, and hopefully that can give you some good reference. But that's something I can do. Malo, Water Bears.
Oh, yeah. Malo. All right. So another story here. It says, challenging the priestess of Haihai circa 1829-1830. So once again, before 1834.
Okay.
It says, influenced by V's teaching. So now he's picked up V, taking him to Vava'u.
Okay.
Taufa'ahau began questioning traditional gods. During a kava ceremony, he confronted a priestess possessed by his ancestral god Haihai. To test the Christian god's superiority, he struck her with a banana stalk or similar object, declaring the old gods slain if it could not retaliate. The priestess showed no reaction, which Taufa'ahau took as proof of the traditional god's impotence. This led him to destroy idol houses, burn shrines, and desecrate sacred objects across Ha'apai, further testing and affirming the Christian god's power while enraging traditionalists. What are your thoughts?
This goes back to our earlier discussion, Dua, about the cleansing of Taufa'ahau. This reminds me, it looks like he first does a lot of the cleansing of ancestral worship, in Ha'apai, because he was one of the few that grew up in Mu'a, where was the gatekeeping of the old religion, the old religion. When we say old religion, we're meaning the Hiku Deo being the only God in all of Tonga and the old religion, and then it kind of descend. It kind of, as time went on, a lot of people went up to worshiping ancestors, kind of thing, and so it looks like he's doing a test and kind of getting rid, because he kind of recognizes that this religion that they were doing at his time was the incorrect religion compared to the Christian God, which was what he thinks was the closest to the old religion of Hikudeo. So I don't know. That's what I'm thinking. I'm just thinking out loud. But what's your thoughts, Tua?
Yeah, the story that this kind of reminds me of, Masi, and I don't know if you're aware of this story. It's recorded in other parts of the Jewish history and other kind of books about Abraham when he mocks his father's gods. Have you ever heard that concept there, Masi? So there is a tradition that Abraham grew up with his, or at least grew up around or knew his great grandfather, whatever, which was Noah or something like that. One of the, or early close to Noah. And that's where he gets his knowledge of God, because his father falls away from God, right? He rejects God. And so when he comes back from staying with his great grandfather or whatever, his father has idols in his home, around his home. And Abraham tells his father's servants, go make food and cook all this food and bring it out to all the gods so they can eat. Because you say their gods are alive, but they're like either stone or wood carvings. So he goes and brings in all the food and everything. They leave it there. He comes back the next day. He's like, oh, I guess these gods aren't real gods because they can't eat. They're not alive, right? Like they're dead. So he kind of goes through a series of events like that. And I don't know if Taufa'ahau is hearing some of those stories of Abraham, or if he's coming up with this on his own, but he seems to kind of see the same thing. Like, I'm going to test this God, right? And maybe he was inspired by hearing those stories. If some of the missionaries taught Pita V, and Pita V had told him like, hey, there was a guy in a similar situation and he tested his father's gods and they couldn't eat, they couldn't do anything. So that for some reason, that's the story that comes to mind when I hear that.
Interesting.
All right. There's we'll do one more story. There's a couple more questions or comments that are popping up online.
Okay.
But let's go to this next one. This one we're kind of familiar with.
Yes.
But,
this is this is number 3, the shark test with Pita V, October 1829. This is the most well-known story of Taufa'ahau directly testing the Christian God. While sailing to Ha'apai with Pita V, Taufa'ahau spotted a white shark he believed was his personal god, Taufa'itahi, or Taufa'alahi. To challenge it, he threw a spear at the shark, but it missed and sunk. He then ordered V, and in some accounts, V plus another man thrown overboard into the shark-infested waters to retrieve the spear, reasoning, if the God you believe in is true, he can save you from that shark. But if Taufa'itahi eats you, then the gods I believe in are true. Taufa'ahau sailed away, but later, during a kava ceremony on shore, V emerged from the sea unharmed, having retrieved the spear without being attacked. Astonished, Taufa'ahau declared the Christian God the greatest and urged his people to convert. Variations in accounts note 1 or 2 men thrown in, but the outcome consistently reinforced his faith. Tua, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing that comes to my mind when I hear this story is God typically in the scriptures says, do not tempt the Lord thy God, right? Like when someone usually says, if there is a God, then let him do this sign or that sign. And sometimes God will strike those people, and it's not a good experience for them. I find it very interesting that in Tupou the First's situation, he's not struck by that, or at least God seems to not take Tupou the First testing him in that manner as tempting him, right? Or quote unquote challenging him. He seems, because he's not chastised or punished, that God maybe recognizes he's being sincere, and that's why. But I don't know. I find it interesting that there's many examples in the scriptures that when you try to tempt the Lord God, he actually will strike back at you. But that doesn't happen with Tupou the First here.
Yeah, and I was just thinking when I was reading through about this part of the story about Maui Tekelangi's version of what he's heard, that Taufa'ahau throws the spear to the shark, and he kind of leaves it there, and then Pita V, in his own choosing to test what he believes that he can retrieve the spear from the shark on his own willingness to go and jump in the infested water or shark waters where they were at, and then retrieve the spear, and then coming back. But this story is kind of saying that he was kind of thrown to the ocean, which is, I guess so. But to me, what would catch Taufa'ahau or influence him more about this new religion was Pita V choosing to jump in and retrieve the spear from the shark.
That might make a lot more sense, Masi, as to why God doesn't see it as tempting the Lord God, because what it is Pita V saying, I'm going to show you that my God is great, and I'm going to act in faith to go get it. Like the Daniel in the lion's den, or, what are the three guys that get thrown into the fire? Shadrach, Abednego, and whatever their name is.
And they don't burn. They were still alive.
So yeah, I think that's kind of interesting there. So maybe that's why. Maybe Maui Tekelangi's version, if that one is true, would be less of tempting the Lord God. So maybe, yeah, that's interesting. I appreciate that.
And then like the stories you mentioned, that's a lot closer to some of the stories in the Bibles, in the
of the faith, of the exercising faith.
Yes,
it's bringing about a miracle.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The next one here is the poisoning and recovery. I never heard of this one either. But it says opponents of Christianity, angered by Taufa'ahau's destruction of shrines, poisoned his food during a feast. He fell gravely ill, but missionaries treated him, and Christian converts, including V, prayed through the night. He recovered fully by morning, viewing this as another miracle from the Christian God. This incident further solidified his commitment and inspired others, including chiefs like Finau of Vava'u, probably because Finau was the one who probably poisoned him. Finau Ulkalala, those Ulkalala guys, man, were ruthless. To test and abandon traditional idols. These events culminated in Taufa'ahau's full conversion. He was baptized on August 7th, 1831, taking the name King George, and became a preacher for himself. A major Christian revival swept Tonga in 1834. So Taufa'ahau gets baptized before the 1834 Christian revival, leading to widespread conversions. Taufa'ahau tests were part of a broader transition that unified Tonga under Christian principles. So interesting there. I find that funny. So it actually kind of makes sense now. I was kind of, if I remember correctly, my history classes from Tonga, that Ulkalala gave Taufa'ahau the Tu'i Vava'u because his son was too young. And that Tupou the First was to kind of take over that role until his son was old enough. But according to this story, the poisoning and the survival of Taufa'ahau influenced Finau to maybe even to the point that he gives the Tu'i Vava'u title to Tupou the First. But I think it's kind of funny that this influenced him because mana kawafina we don't know poison Taufa'ahau, and he's like, dude, everybody we did this to died, and this guy's still alive.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, and when you're reading this is a new story I wasn't too familiar with the whole falling gravely ill and the Pita and some of the Christian missionaries praying for Taufa'ahau to quickly recover, and he recovered the next morning. So, hey, I learned something new, added to the basket of oral stories that I've heard. So, hey, pretty cool.
All right. Let's look at a couple of these comments here. Some of it, man, I feel like I'm going to sneeze here or something. Some of it is not really directed to.
Bless you.
Excuse me. It says here by Noah. Noah says Pita V was actually my 5th great grandfather. He has other descendants in Samoa. Marie, great job. That's a great heritage to come from Noah. Here's a question also from Noah. I don't mean to be prideful, but wasn't the ancient Tongan language sound more Samoan? What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Atearoa?
Sound more Samoan. I'm not too sure, Noah. Because to my understanding, the Tongan language is probably the one that received probably the less, that was, let's just say, received less changes compared to other Polynesian language of today. So, I'm not too sure about that. Even with the sound and some of the words that are used in the Tongan language, it's still maintain its original meaning from the past, because it's gone through the less changes, I'm trying to say. So I'm not too sure about that, Noah. That's all I know. My understanding is the Tongan language is the original language of Polynesia, and it seems like since maybe the eroding, there's a combination of things that happen. The eroding of the Tu'i Tonga influence and less traveling between the Polynesian nation, and then the colonization with the missionaries, and the missionaries adding in their written language and adding like certain words to it that influence and changed a lot of the Polynesian languages to be kind of how it is today. So that's just me right there, Noah. I don't know if Tua, you had anything.
I don't know what happened to my camera. Maybe does it look blurry on your end, Muzzy?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
I have no idea what happened there, and I'm not gonna mess with it because we were already having technical issues earlier. Anyways, we'll go blurry. Maybe this is a revealing of my vision right now.
Well, you're in Vegas. That is the city of a party life. I don't know if there's any city that parties harder than Vegas.
100%. Yeah, I mean, my initial response to that, Noah, is we did do an episode where we walked through the study that looked at the division of the Samoic and the Tongic languages, the Proto-Polynesian. And really, the grouping of the Samoic languages are those who morphed the most. So really and people had initially taken that the Samoan languages being so much similar to the other ones as evidence of, Samoa's influence throughout Polynesia. But really, when you looked at the study, it was they went through the most amount of mutations, and that the Tongan language had the fewer mutations. That's why they said that the glottal stop, Tonga holding on to the glottal stop, and some other features of the Tongan language was evidence that the Tongan language had deteriorated or morphed slower than the other groupings of languages. So,
good question though, Noah. Malo.
Yeah, a couple more comments here. Going back to what Tauso Noah said about the continent, the theory of Mu being the sunken continent and the Polynesian islands being at the tip of the sunken continent. I've heard that a little bit too, Water Bears. Not very knowledgeable there. Apparently, Mu'a, the old capital, is connected to the ancient continent of Mu. Thoughts there, Mr. Atearoa?
No, I really don't know about this theory here, Water Bears. I don't know too much. I'll probably have to catch up on it, but I'm not too familiar with this. I think I've heard it before, but I really haven't read anything to come about an opinion or to provide an opinion on this. So I'm not too sure, Water Bears, about this question. I don't know if you have more of an answer to it.
No, I don't have a lot. Besides, there is, I guess, some oral history and discussion that there was a missing continent in the Pacific. And there's been, some discussions on it. I'm not as familiar with it, but I have heard that as something that people have discussed. Okay. So, Shogun, welcome to the show. Sorry, Kataki to the viewers with the blurriness. I have no idea what is going on. I feel like it's getting blurrier as we go. Anyways, it's a new filter. The new filter, guys. Pina Ukalala from the Mariner period was cunning. He's Aiden Gillen from the Game of Thrones. I mean, the Ukalalas were known to be ruthless and merciless. So wouldn't be surprised if that is accurate there.
Yeah.
All right. So I also kind of looked into, asked Grok to pull some additional stories. And if you notice, one thing I want to bring up, a lot of these stories, 1830, 1831, 1829, 1829, 1830, 1829. So before the 1834 experience. So these are early. So I asked Grok, hey, are there other stories? So he just quickly mentions about, let's just read it real quick.
All right. I can read it, Dua.
Go ahead.
So childhood healing by traditional God and later rejection. Backstory from childhood, challenge in adulthood around 1829 to 1830. As a child, Taufa'ahau fell seriously ill and was taken to a traditional priest, Taula, for healing by his ancestral god, Haihai-Tahi, a shark deity. He recovered, which reinforced belief in the god's power among his people. However, as an adult, during his exposure to Christianity, he directly challenged the same god by confronting its priestess, as previously noted, and destroying associated shrines, interpreting the lack of retaliation as proof of the Christian god's superiority over the one that had healed him. The backstory adds context to his test, showing a personal history with traditional gods that he later sought to disprove. Outcome: it fueled his campaign to dismantle idol worship in Ha'apai, leading to widespread shrine destructions. Very interesting. It just goes back to with going to the Taula and having that encounter of what the true old religion was. Looks like he was very bold to challenge this ancestral gods that was, or idol worshiping. I think that's a better way of putting it. This idol worshiping, and maybe these, the tikis. I'm thinking like the tiki they kind of sell around in Hawaii, Tua, kind of like these idol tiki worshiping stuff. And Taufa'ahau is like saying, no, this is not the right God to be going, as he's understanding with his new encounter with the Christian God, being closer to what he remembers of the old religion. He's like, this new Christian God is very similar to what I know of the old religion, and all this idol worshiping. He was very bold to dismantle and destroy those gods and anyone that stands in the way. So Taufa'ahau was doing this at a very young age, because he was kind of, what year was he born? Like 1799 or something? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's got to be late 1700s, early 1800s, because he's it might be early 1800s, more early 1800s, because 1830 he's a young chief, so maybe 20 or 30 years old. So
Yeah, but those
Okay.
are my thoughts, Tua. I don't know if you had anything to add.
No, I've never heard of Hai Tahi before.
Mm.
So this is kind of interesting. I've never heard of some of these names, but hey, that's why we read, explore stuff. Maybe, hopefully, this is accurate. It looks like it's pulling it from BibleStudies.org.uk. I don't know if that someone wrote a paper for their degree over there, and
Man, they
maybe
gave it
that's
to
the driver behind it, but I don't know.
them.
Let's see here. Let's go with this next one. Tricks and tests on priests and priestesses. Before fully committed to Christianity, Taufa'ahau tested the authenticity of traditional priests by playing pranks during their rituals. It's sounding a lot like Abraham. Clubbing some lightly, covering others in mud, stealing offerings like a fat pig meant for the gods, and intruding into sacred houses. He observed that their prophecies depended on the value of offerings rather than the divine truth, exposing them as frauds. The priests cursed him as a despiser of the gods, but their inability to harm him convinced him of heathenism's falsehood. Accelerating his turn to Christianity, the incident heightened fear among traditionalists, but emboldened Taufa'ahau. Any thoughts on that?
No, he's doing like every other person should do. You know, when you want to try to find which is the true religion that you should join, you know, sounds very similar to our faiths in Joseph Smith. Looks like Taufa'ahau was just testing the old religion, just with not the old religion of the old religion, but like these ancestral and idol worshiping and just testing if they were true or not. So he was in a journey of testing which gods were true compared to the Christian gods. So it was his way of doing it, which I find very interesting. I don't know. That's just my thoughts there, Tua.
No, 100%. I mean, that's what you got to do. You got to test them, and hopefully they don't come back and burn you, but you learn something new. But you got to be bold at some point. At some point, you have to be, like we say, be bold, stay curious, and ask the hard questions. At some point, that's what you got to do, especially when you're coming to a fork in the road and you need to make a decision.
Yeah.
You got to be curious about what the truth is. You got to be bold. And then at the end of the day, you got to ask the question. And then you have to have the courage to follow the answer to the question that you believe is true. All right. Coming
Yes,
down
sir.
next here. Destruction of God houses in Vava'u. Oh, that's your turn, Mr. Atearoa.
Yeah, I can go ahead. While visiting Vava'u, Taufa'ahau and his followers entered a sacred spirit house to challenge the gods directly. They interrupted an old priest's incantations, dragged him out, smeared him with mud, and accused him of deception. They then uncovered and destroyed the god, a small spotted shell wrapped in cloth and mats, burned the house, and over several days raised 15 more god houses, smashing idols like whales' teeth, clubs, and carved figures. Outcome: local people initially reacted with anger, arming themselves, but backed down upon recognizing Taufa'ahau. This mass destruction dispersed the dark cloud of superstition, inspiring many in Vava'u to renounce traditional gods and convert. Taufa'ahau presented a captured idol, a whale's tooth, to missionary William Turner as a trophy of faith. What's your thoughts, Tua?
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like he's getting bolder and bolder, right?
He's taking the challenges of the idol gods in Hapai, taking it to Vava'u and doing the same thing.
Yes. He says, if it's true in Ha'apai, it must be true in Vava'u as well.
Yes, sir.
Right. And he's really he's getting bolder and bolder, and this is what, 1831. That's about when he gets baptized. So either shortly before or shortly after his baptism. Number 4, plot to kill him in act of forgiveness, angered by his shrine destructions and challenges, including striking a priestess. Heathen chiefs plotted to assassinate Taufa'ahau. The plan was uncovered before execution and his life was spared. Outcome: instead of retaliation, Taufa'ahau publicly forgave the plotters, attributing his mercy to the Christian teachings. This act shocked observers, demonstrating a profound change in his character and serving as further proof of Christianity's transformative power, encouraging more conversions. Okay, interesting. Any thoughts there, Mr. Atearoa?
No, I mean, I'm not surprised that there were many plots to kill him, because he's doing something new. He's causing a little chaos with amongst the people with their idol worshiping. But I guess a lot of great leadership and people with influence, when you try to do something new and you're doing something to, let's just say, change what people have been doing for many years, that causes people to startle, and then the ones who have influence from doing this such practice, a lot of them don't like what Taufa'ahau is doing. So I'm pretty sure there were multiple attempts to assassinate Taufa'ahau, but some divine
intervention,
some divine protection just happened to be with Taufa'ahau. So it's pretty amazing that he was able to survive that and even get to a long old age, because he passed away in his 90s, living such a long life. So that's just my thoughts there. Tua, I don't know if you had anything.
Not 100%. We'll switch the camera here to the lower resolution, but at least it's not blurry.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, 100% agreed there. So I think it's kind of interesting. I didn't realize a lot of these stories actually existed. Hopefully they're accurate, but they do give some interesting context and give us a different perspective on what was going on.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm going to add this to the stage here real quick. And this is the paper we're going to walk through. I don't know. Anything else, Masi, you wanted to talk through before we go through this paper here?
No, I mean, it's good that Grok is able to retrieve some of this information in his databases, or the databases that's out there, because I'm pretty sure there's some people that never heard some of these oral stories that were recorded from different people or what they've heard. So it's good to get all these oral stories, because I know there's people who've got certain variations but not other variations, or didn't understand maybe the full oral history. So I like what we went through with what Grok was able to retrieve regarding the spiritual awakening of Taufa'ahau and how he went about it.
Yeah. And I think that's important to understand, because we're going to see here, these are all events that happen 3 to 4 years before this event that we're going to drive into a little bit, right? And this is a paper that was put together by Manasseh Koloa Matangi, and it looks like it was done for his PhD, I think. Okay. And so he titled it "The Pentecost of 1834, a revival in the Kingdom of Tonga, a possible key for renewal and unity for the Tongan church today." So he really takes the approach that this event had what he calls a change in the worldview of the Tongan people. And what he prescribes to that is how you behave, how you connect with other people, how you view the world. And that ultimately was the driving factor of Tupou the First and Tonga surviving colonization, and also Tonga's influence in missionary work around the world. Okay. Let's see here. It looks like it was Doctor of Ministry. So this was for a PhD.
Okay, so this is like he's going to school, like maybe because they have those schools for like Faifekau, like preacher, pastor, worship, kind of thing.
Yes,
pastor ministry.
There are a few more comments here before we get to many of them too far. Mikalosiale 9M, welcome. He says, yep, Vaini and Folaha tried to tamate Taufa'ahau, but they failed and got named Vaini Vade and Folaha Kailere.
Malo, Mika.
Famous names.
Malo.
Go ahead on this one, Masi.
All right, this is from Shogun. I guess Taufa'ahau's conversion to Christianity reminds me of the story of Paul when his name was still Saul. Saul went around persecuting early Christians and had them arrested. Oh, that's a good one. Shogun. Tua, you had any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, and this is what's interesting here, Shogun, is Manasseh here shows a lot of parallels between what happens with the apostles after Christ's death, right? The Pentecost, and what happens to the Tongans in Ha'apai and throughout Tonga Tapu. So this is it's not an unfair comparison to have. All right. I'm just going to skip through to the areas that I highlighted and kind of walk through those. If you want to read this real quick, Mr. Atearoa.
Let's go. In 1470 AD, Kau'ulufonua, the 24th Tu'i Tonga, appointed Mo'unga Motua as the first Tu'i Ha'atakalaua. Thus, a new line of kingship was started to deal with the commoners, and the Tu'i Tonga remained as the sacred kingship. In 1610, Mo'unga Tonga's son, Ngata, was chosen the first Tu'i Kanokupolu, starting a third line of kingship under the Tu'i Ha'atakalaua and the Tu'i Tonga. The Tu'i Kanokupolu took responsibilities over the grassroots majority, while the Tu'i Tonga remained as the sacred king, and the Tu'i Ha'atakalaua exercised authority over the Tu'i Kanokupolu, but still under the Tu'i Tonga. Today, all three lines are united under the present King Taufa'ahau Tupou the Fourth, whose great grandfather George Tupou the First was the first to unite all three lines of kingship under himself in 1845. What's your thoughts there, Tua? A lot of stuff there. A lot of good stuff there.
To me, what really sticks out here and very simple is a lot of people, I don't know what a lot of people from our brothers and sisters out of who don't understand the kingly line structure in Tonga always take the point that the Tu'i Ha'atakalaua usurped the Tu'i Tonga, and then the Tu'i Kanokupolu usurped the Tu'i Ha'atakalaua. But our brother here, Manasseh, here shows that it's well accepted within Tongans that is not what happened. What happened was Tu'i Tonga, Kaulfonua Fekai, right? After he kills the assassins of his father, Takalaua, he installs his brother as the Tu'i Ha'atakalaua, who later, the Tu'i Ha'atakalaua later installs the Tu'i Kanokupolu. But as he mentioned, the Tu'i Tonga is over the Tu'i Ha'atakalaua and the Tu'i Kanokupolu, but the Tu'i Ha'atakalaua is below the Tu'i Tonga and above the Tu'i Kanokupolu. So when we say that the Tu'i Kanokupolu is the lowest of the three kingly lines, that's not saying that though they're not kings, that's not saying that they don't have royal blood, that doesn't say that they don't have these type of honor, but we're just looking at it as objectively that they are three kingly lines. They can coexist or govern at the same time, but they have a hierarchy even amongst them, right? And so I think that's an important part to understand. And also that the Tu'i Kanokupolu, his primary role is to run, like he says here, responsibilities of the grassroots majority, meaning, hey, he's in charge of running the government, the political, the military, the social aspects of things. But the Tu'i Tonga is the one who oversees the spiritual and what's considered the higher and the greater things. That's my thoughts there, Mr. Atearoa. Anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, that's awesome, Tua, because I think this is a good explanation with some of the theories people are thinking that the Tu'i Tonga was chased by the Tu'i Ha'atakalaua, and then the Tu'i Ha'atakalaua was the sole ruler because they're taking that European lenses of that there can only be one supreme ruler. right? At a time when it is well known in Tongan history that they coincided, but with different rank, and that's how it always was. And then the Tui Kanokupolu created from the Tui Hatagalawa, but it was, I like how he mentioned grassroots, took care of the grassroots stuff while it was still the sacred. Tui Tonga was still the sacred, and then the Tui Hatagalawa was still under, but it looks like it had its influence on the Tui Kanokupolu. And it made sense while we were kind of going through with, especially your discussions with Maui Tekelangi, that the Tui Kanokupolu in its early stages, it was pretty unstable until usually Taufa'ahau took the title and gave it stability. But there was a lot of instability, and a lot of the people that were actually coming to it be installed to kind of be the caretaker for the Tui Kanokupolu was from the people who were inheriting the Tui Hatagalawa title.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I like it. I just found that very fascinating when I was reading that part of this essay here, that it's I find it very accurate and good, and I like the words he used to kind of describe the complexity of these three kings coexisting but different ranks and what their responsibilities were within their kingly titles. But yeah.
Yep, 100%. I'm gonna see if my other camera will wake up or not. We'll see. Oh, Yahweh. Oh, it works.
It's alive.
It's alive. Okay. Let's go to the next one. We're just gonna jump to where I have things highlighted. So it says here, the significance of the Tongan Pentecost is expressed by a stone marker which the people of Utui. So Utui village in Ha'apai is where it happened, Masi.
Okay. Where is Utui? Sorry to interrupt, but
no. Let's see if I can pull it up here.
Yeah, where is that? I'm not familiar with this place, Utui.
You're not familiar with New York City, also known as Utui?
I wish. I wish. I just want to bring it up so at least I can have some kind of visual of this place that I'm not too familiar with. And for the viewers to know, I haven't been to any other islands other than Tapu. So that's why I want to know where exactly this place is at.
Oh, I guess it is Vava'u, not Ha'apai.
Okay. So it is Vava'u. That's what I remember the story of this
yeah.
Toai Ofa. So it's in Vava'u, eh?
Yes, I am mistaken. Let me remove this and add that.
Okay. Oh, yeah, wait. Koi Ki'ikolo, eh?
Yes, so there's Vava'u. And it's this little village, Utui village.
Okay. Hey, pretty cool. And while Tua's just kind of playing around with the Google Maps here, if we have people from Utui that probably have more oral history, please let us know. It would be pretty cool to hear maybe some of your guys' stories from your families from Utui. But that's all. Malo.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, it's a good thing you asked that, Masi. I'm maybe suffering from fatigue. I didn't realize it's in Vava. I thought it was Hapai.
Okay. Cool.
That's why it's good to ask the question. Erected in the exact spot where the revival originated, a Tongan house similar to the church building where the service took place was built beside the stone marker. The Tongan Pentecost went there. Therefore stands for the revival which took place on the 23rd of July, 1834 in the village of Utui in the Vava'u group.
Okay.
Let me read through here. It says Christianity was first introduced to the Kingdom of Tonga by the London Missionary Society missionaries in 1797, originally organized on an interdenominational basis, directed by evangelical Anglicans such as Thomas Hawes and supported by congregational churches in latter days. The Duff landed in Pangai Motu Tonga Tapu on April 10th, 1797 with 10 missionaries. Mumui, the aged Kanokupolu, and his powerful son Tukuaho received and protected them. I think this is the Tukuaho that gets assassinated, right?
Yeah.
On 10th of April, 1797, the Duff anchored off the small island of Pangaimotu, Tongatapu. 2 days later, the men landed and met chiefs including Mumui, the Tu'ikanukupolu, who expressed his desire to be taught how to make the kind of furniture he had seen on the ship. Kanaya, don't tell me about your Bible. How do I make that couch? I want to tokoto on that couch right there. The missionaries decided to fix their residences in Hihifo, the western district, under the patronage of Tukuaho, the son of Mumui. On the 17th of April, the first sermon in Tonga was preached by John Buchanan, and the party observed the sacrament of the Lord's Supper.
Very, very interesting. So 17, I find it very interesting because the LMS, the Ha'amoa's always La Musa, which is probably the most dominant religion in Ha'amoa. So the La Musa is still the dominant religion in Ha'amoa, to my understanding. So,
to this day.
To this day. Yeah.
Okay.
So
it just mentions later on here that later in the Civil War of 1797, so they arrived, there's already a civil war. Like we mentioned, a lot of people tried to say Christianity caused the Civil War.
Yeah.
It was pre-existing, and the tensions had already pre-existed before that. Let me see here. Want to read this one where it says August 2nd?
Yes. On August 22, 1822, Lowry came on shore at Mu'a and met Fatu, also known as Palau. Fatu was the father of the first Tungi, the great-grandfather of the present King Tupou IV. Fatu was the son of Muriki Ha'amea, the Tu'i Hatakalawa, killed in 1799. Okay.
So this is George Vason. That's Muriki Ha'amea, George Vason's friend.
Yes, during his time in Tongatapu.
During his time on Tongatapu in Mu'a. And, you can tell this information seems correct.
Yeah.
Some of the good things about doing the podcast, we learn a lot of stuff. That was the last Tu'i Hatakalawa, was Muriki Ha'amea. So they're saying his son Fatu, right, had his name, but he doesn't have a title. And they usually skip one generation before they reinstall it, but then they change the name
to Tungi.
Tungi.
Yeah. And I think Muriki Ha'amea were one of those people that was also the Tu'i Kanokupolu for a little bit to provide stability, and then went back to becoming the Tu'i Tagalawa. Is that correct? Was he?
I don't know if it's not that he started as the Tu'i Hatakalawa. There are instances where the potential heir to the Tu'i Hatakalawa before the Tu'i Hatakalawa title becomes available, they are asked, hey, go and do the work of the Tu'i Kanokupolu because we're having issues with people fulfilling that title and that role and responsibility. And then they would carry that Tu'i Kanokupolu title until the Tu'i Hatakalaua title opened up,
and then
usually from a passing. Then they would leave the Tu'i Kanokupolu and go and take upon them the Tu'i Hatakalaua title, right? Which, in a sense, it's a band-aid to the bigger problem because the consistency of a line is dependent on father to son over multiple generations, right? So when you have someone that is not going to keep the title full time, they're just a quick band-aid. It could have been, one of those situations where there was no direct heir, but there was an issue of finding someone competent and capable, because taking care of the administrative stuff is not easy. There's a reason why they're trying to hand it off to someone else. It's not easy. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
So he just kind of talks about the background of Tonga, and he's covering a bunch of different things. I'm just kind of covering some of the areas that he kind of highlights that are interesting.
Okay, I can read this one. I can read
Yeah,
this
so
one.
this is an experience of one of the missionaries in Tonga who observes the Pentecost in Tonga, but he has a similar experience in Europe, or is this Australia, somewhere where he was living before he went on his mission.
Okay. Thomas recorded in his private journal on May 30th, 1819, his new experience with the inspiration of the Holy Spirit in his own words. It was a day of Pentecost indeed, such a one as I never saw before. God heard the prayers of his faithful children. There was a miraculous display of divine power and presence. The Lord worked wonders that day, of which I was an eyewitness. May the Lord grant that I may never break this resolution. Thomas, 1819.
So this is important because he has a personal experience with what a day of or a Pentecostal experience looks like and feels like. So he's someone that's speaking from experience on what a Pentecost looks and feels like as a firsthand witness experiencing it. So he later on will describe what happens in Tonga, and he says, yes, this is a Pentecostal type of experience. And he's speaking from direct firsthand experience from what led to his conversion and his willingness. If we think it's hard to go on a mission today, imagine in the late 1700s, early 1800s, where you're going, there's a high probability you ain't coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. In a time of civil war that you were most likely gonna be killed in sight if you were just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
I mean, because that's what happened to the missionaries. They mention it a handful of times. Many missionaries were killed during the Civil War as casualties of the war.
George Vason also mentioned it, that the people he came with.
Three of those guys died.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting Masi. I had thought that this story was tied to Tupou the First, but according to this record, it's actually tied to this Thomas guy. Can you read this one? Can you see that one?
The no European is better, or the one you highlighted, the people of Hihifo?
The people. Yeah, the people of Hihifo.
The people of Hihifo have a story that Thomas put his umbrella upright in the sand on the beach at Ha'atafu, Hihifo, and the onlookers waited to see whether the waves would reach the umbrella as a superstitious indication that the party be attacked at the centenary celebration in 1926. Okay. 1926. This scene was enacted by one of the village groups in the descriptive dance and singing Wood Overseas Mission 35. This is one of the reasons why John Thomas is so famous in Tonga. This story of the waves stopping before they reach the umbrella tells of a miracle that proved to prove to the natives that Jesus Christ, who came with John Thomas, was the living God. What's your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, this is kind of interesting to me. This is why it's kind of interesting when you hear stories. I had always heard the story that Tupou the First had done a similar thing.
Yes. I think with Maui Takalangi, with what he's heard from oral history. Yeah.
So I wonder this is where it gets interesting. If both stories are true, all of a sudden it makes sense why Tupou the First would have done that same test. Maybe he's like, hey, I heard that Mr. Thomas, he put his umbrella down and the waves stopped. Well, if that's true, I want to see it for myself. And puts in the umbrella. So that one I thought was kind of interesting because that's also a story that I've heard that is attributed to Tupou the First doing a similar test after or at around the same time or shortly after the shark test with Pita V. This highlighted one just talks about some of the people who were baptized, including Pita V. So
Did
we
you?
will
Oh, okay. I was gonna say if you
read
want me
this
to read
one.
it.
Read
Okay.
this one because it's a summary of the one on the top as well.
What Turner referred? Okay.
Yeah.
Turner referred to the first baptism service held in Nuku'alofa, stated in his journal, they have been under preparatory instruction for 12 weeks and have given satisfactory evidence of work of God upon the minds, have chosen the new names for themselves. Mafideo, Noah, Talanoa, Mosese, Lawola, Elisa, Kava Moilolo, Panepasa, V, Pita, Lave Mai, Siosifa, Mo'unga Valu, Ioane, John, January 4th, 1829. So this is the new names of the followers after they've been
Yes.
baptized. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that seems to be the common thing. Like they took on their Christian name,
Yeah.
right? So they get baptized, which is Pita V, and so these 7 guys. These are the
Ki-
early pioneers.
And like one of our viewers, Shogun mentioned with Paul with his new name when he converted to Christianity, going from Saul to Paul.
Yes. Let's see here. This is so more than 2000. They kind of mention what happens right after he gets baptized. Taufa'ahau tells the congregation, a short time ago, I was living in a very wicked way and served the devil with all my might. I now come to give myself and these my children's body and soul to the Lord Jesus and to be baptized in his holy name. So the reason that's why I wanted to talk about some of the events that Tupou the first goes through before he gets baptized and leading up to this Pentecost thing, because it's a fair idea and a fair thing to think of that Tupou the first is purely doing this for political reasons and just to concede to the Westerners, right? He gets accused of, he wasn't willing to stand up and fight that the Westerners, and his whole conversion was just him conceding to the Westerners. But the guy is going around testing his ancient gods. He's challenging them. He's getting poisoned. He's getting, murder assassinations coming up against him. And then you hear him say this about how he's really here to convert and commit himself to Jesus. Is like, well, seems like it might be accurate. Maybe the guy is sincerely looking for the truth.
Looking for the truth. Yeah.
As always, don't be afraid to be bold and to stay curious and to ask the hard questions. So,
yes, sir.
Till next time, peace.
Peace.